Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're going to dive right into why you might be feeling a crushing, hollow exhaustion that sleep just can't fix, especially after a long day of being exactly who everyone else needs you to be. Let's get right into it.
So I want you to imagine something. Imagine walking through your front door after a long day. You were the perfectly polite colleague, the completely agreeable friend, the ultra-accommodating partner. On the surface, the day was a massive success. But the very second you are finally alone, you feel this crushing, hollow exhaustion that no amount of sleep can fix. Why? Well, it's because you spent the last several hours editing your thoughts, calibrating your tone, and constantly scanning the room for any sign of disapproval. Now, you might naturally blame this heavy, unexplainable fatigue on a lack of discipline. You might think, oh, I'm just weak, or I have no willpower. But actually, scratch that. The truth is, you aren't lacking willpower at all. You are living in what we call an architecture of failure. Your physical environment is actively sabotaging your soul. It's wild, right? Which brings us to our first main concept, the architecture of failure. We often talk about author James Clear's concept of choice architecture. The basic idea here is that our behavior is shaped by what's most visible and accessible in our environment. Meaning, your brain isn't just being lazy when you fail to break a bad habit. It's simply following the path of least resistance that your physical space has literally built for it. In short, your physical space is the true architect of your behavior.
And that can lead to what we call a polished prison. Take a look around your home. Do you have books kept on shelves just for show? You know the ones? Or maybe room layouts maintained strictly for guests who visit maybe twice a year? How about a smartphone, always within reach for an immediate response? If your home is filled with cues like these, things that constantly remind you of who you should be, you are living in a space that treats your true self as a total inconvenience. Every object in sight is essentially auctioning off your energy to the highest bidder of convenience.
Let's move on to part 2, the childhood surveillance system, to see exactly where this all starts. Because this invisible surveillance system, it didn't just appear out of thin air. It usually starts in childhood, as a brute necessity for survival. You learned early on that the air in the room just felt lighter when you were easy or good, right? And so moving into adulthood, your brain became biologically programmed to choose the path of pleasing others just to avoid the danger of rejection. Fast forward to today, and you've carried that monitoring technology directly into your adult life. You are constantly putting your identity on trial, basically begging for permission to exist in your own space. Okay, part 3, the price of maximum legibility. The legendary psychologist Carl Jung actually had a name for this specific type of psychic depletion. He called it the high price of maximum legibility. What does that mean? Well, it is the heavy cost of building an inner and outer architecture designed to be perfectly understandable and totally safe for everyone else, while leaving absolutely no room for the person you actually are. By maintaining this incredible act all day, you have successfully achieved maximum adaptation to society. You fit in perfectly. Everyone loves how accommodating you are. But tragically, as a result, you were left with minimum access to yourself. It's a massive, fundamental design conflict. Think about it this way. Every time you look at an object that represents an expectation you don't actually hold, you are leaking psychic energy. You come home and feel completely hollowed out because your room is a polished prison that literally drains your energy. It's constantly reminding you of what everyone else wants from you. So, how do we begin to fix this? That brings us to part 4, engineering your choice architecture. You start by fundamentally redesigning your physical space. Step 1, make the habits of your authentic self completely obvious and super easy. For example, if you actually want to read before bed, put the book right on your pillow. Step 2, make your people-pleasing triggers completely invisible. Put your phone in another room so you aren't immediately available to everyone's demands. And step 3, manipulate the environment so the right behavior becomes inevitable. You have to stop fighting your brain and start engineering your success. Next up, part 5, reclaiming your internal authority. Once you eliminate that physical friction in your space, you have to address the internal authority of the room. You have to stop carrying the clutter that serves absolutely no purpose other than to maintain a performance. As Carl Jung argued, fidelity to the law of one's own being is the only path to true health. Meaning, true individuation requires your room to be a reflection of your own truth. It has to be a space where you no longer need to explain your aesthetic or justify your choices to a single soul. And when you stop carrying the weight of others' tastes, you realize something huge. You can stop explaining your boundaries. A clean no that comes from somewhere solid inside you, that is a precision weapon. It instantly restores your internal authority. Because, listen, you don't need to win a battle of words. You don't need to over-explain or justify a choice to anyone. You just need to flat out refuse to enter the theater of other people's expectations. Period. Your presence alone should command that respect. Which leads us to our final section, choosing your peace. Now, I'm going to be completely honest with you. Choosing yourself is going to feel like a terrifying leap because true transformation, it requires you to stop being available to every single demand. You literally have to let the world around you go into crisis so your soul can finally breathe. You move from being a statistical cog in someone else's system to becoming the sovereign authority over your own presence. And to do that, you have to embrace being confusing and inconvenient to those who only ever valued you for the role you played. You have to risk their disappointment to save yourself.
Because here is the brutal but ultimately empowering truth. No one is coming to save you from this polished prison. You are the one who's been maintaining the lock on this cage. The radical responsibility to open the door is yours alone. But the great news is, that door opens the very moment you decide your peace is worth more than their approval.
So, if you're ready to dismantle this architecture of failure and reclaim your truth, I want you to make a symbolic declaration with us right now. Commit to removing just one performative item from your room today. Then, leave a comment below that says, "I choose my peace." This isn't just a phrase, guys. It's a vote for the new identity you are building today. And don't stop here. The next explainer on your screen right now is the essential next step to understanding how to master your silence and your presence. The ultimate question is, are you going to keep maintaining the locks on your own cage, or are you finally going to choose your peace? I'll see you over there.